This podcast is part of the Planet Broadcasting Network.
Visit planetbroadcasting.com for more podcasts from our great mates.
The following episode of TOFOP is rated MA. It may contain Batman references, time travel references, sexual references, lost trains of thought, and mild coarse language. TOFOP advises that the program is not suitable for anyone under the age of 15 or anyone who enjoys succinct, coherent conversation that might actually have a point. Minors must be accompanied by a parent, guardian, or priest. This is John Deek speaking.
Oh, this is going to be a fun one. All right, you ready, Charlie?
Yeah.
All right, TOFOP 2, 3, 1 in 3, 2, 1.
Everyone relax. This is TOFOP. I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Wil Anderson. Hello. What people didn't hear, in fact, maybe we should just get Michael to keep it in, because his countdown, normally he counts us down and he'll go, he'll say the name of TOFOP and he'll say the number of the episode and then he'll count us down 3, 2, 1. But this time he went TOFOP 2, 3, 1 in 3, 2, 1. It was delightful. It was like a little haiku.
Beautiful wordplay. It was amazing. Now, we need to clarify something about Mike Howell, because I'm dealing now with more and more people in the real world who have to contact Mike Howell for certain things, and the interpretations of the name is getting very confused. So we just need to say it on the record that Mike Howell's name is Michael. We call him Mike Howell because he contacted us via a computer and we had no idea if he was real or not. So we're like, he must be AI. His name is not Mikhail, because I've had a few people asking if they should talk to Mikhail. I just think I just need to sort of put it on Front Street that we do not have a Russian working in our IT department, just in case.
Yeah, our IT producer is not a guy who has his own navy.
It's Mike Howell, but Michael. You can call him Michael, as Will just did then. I feel bad because I feel like Mike Howell has become one of those things like TOFOP, where when it comes up, it requires an awful amount of explanation.
Yeah, and once you've explained it, the other person isn't clearer on A, why you would do that, B, why it's confusing everybody, and C, why you have a podcast in the first place.
Well, our other producer, Sam, was complaining that because when I write Mike Howell in an email, I write MIC, capital HAL.
Yeah.
And Sam was complaining that every time we're having a discussion in which Mike Howell's the subject or included, it takes him so fucking long to put on his caps locks to type out the second half of Mike Howell. He's like, can we just call him Mike or something easy?
Well, I have an added complication in the Mike Howell world, which is that for my other podcast, Willosophy, I have another person who helps out with that podcast, and he books the guests and he does, a lot of the coordinating of, getting that podcast in a weekly format that it is at the moment. And his name is also Michael. And so we go, he's podcast Mike, because on the radio, he was Radio Mike. And so when he came to the gritty world of podcasting, and he has his own podcast now, which people should check out as well. But so he's podcast Mike and Michael is Mike Howell, just so that I can differentiate between the two Michaels. Yeah.
I had a meeting with someone who might be doing some work for the show in the future, and he was very confused because we're talking about philosophy and we're talking about TOFOP, and he was like, okay, so Michael is a producer. And I was like, yes. And he also does the compilations. And like, well, that's Michael, but then there's Michael who's Mike Howell for our show. And he's gone, but who's Podcast Mike? I'm like, Podcast Mike is Michael who produces Philosophy. But Michael is Mike Howell. Michael and Mike Howell are the same person.
Yeah. And they also both technically produce Willosophy in different ways. So both of the producers of Willosophy are called Michael. I call neither of them Michael because that's too confusing. They both have their individual nicknames. But I have two mics that I do the podcast with, and I have two mics that make the podcast happen.
Yeah. So we should now on just have a hiring policy of only mics. That's a mic check.
Well, here's the thing. We had so much trouble with our mics early on. I think that it was our main contention point of which was like which way the mic should face, which bit we need to talk into the mic. Is the Michael on? So I think that this is it's probably very on brand for TOFOP to surround ourselves with mics and not having any understanding of what those mics do.
Do you think, like, if your name, because we've never even bothered to check with Mike Howell, but like, you can't just shorten someone's name and assume they want to be called, like, if he's a Benjamin, he wants to be called Ben. If he's introduced as Benjamin, you can't just call him Ben. You gotta read the play and see if other people call him that, or if he refers to himself as that, or signs off as that. No one calls him Mike. Okay, good. That was going to be my next question. Are we the only people to call him Mike? We are. Brilliant.
Well, we're not calling him Mike, though. We're calling him Mike Howell. That's a very different thing to Mike. We're still kind of paying, we're paying tribute to the full Michael name with a play on Michael rather than just calling him Mike.
Yeah, but it's there, right? Like, if you were, like, no one ever really
Yeah, but
calls
it's there
him
in
Chuck.
Michael as well. You can't get uppity about somebody calling him Mike. Mike is also in Michael, his name. So that's not a good reason to get angry about it.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Now, Will, last week when we spoke, it was a major sporting event happening, the playoffs in the NFL, and when we're recording this, the Royal Rumble has just taken place.
So are you watching the Royal Rumble today?
No, I don't know any of the results. I'm going to try and go in cold, and I was saying to you off air, the Royal Rumble is my favorite of all the pay-per-views because I love the idea that the main event is like every 3 minutes or 2 minutes, whatever it is, and you.
So yeah,
like,
explain it. Explain the rules of the Royal Rumble for people who don't know Royal Rumble rules.
So basically, it starts with 2 men in a ring, and then a new man is added every. I think it's 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Can't really remember. So the idea is, it's not about pinning them or anything like that. You have to toss them out of the ring. The rule is they've got to go out over the top rope, and both feet have to hit the floor. And the reason they're so specific about that is it's become kind of like a running trope in the Royal Rumble that when someone gets tossed out, they may be just like hanging on with like 1 foot just touching the floor, but they're hanging on and they can bring themselves back in. So it's a way to build tension. In fact, there's a wrestler at the moment, Kofi Kingston, who it's become his kind of one of his go-to things is that Royal Rumble every year he gets tossed out and then amazingly manages to not hit the ground. Like he's been thrown out, lands on the announcer's table, he grabs a chair and he'll bunny hop the chair back over to the ring and climb in. So technically his feet haven't touched the ground. It's kind of like
how long are you allowed out of the ring when so for example, if he's thrown out of the ring and he lands on the announcer's table, can he then just lay on the announcer's table for like a couple of rounds while other people are fighting? Yeah.
I watched, I think it was last year's Royal Rumble where Chris Jericho, the last Royal Rumble that Chris Jericho was in, because Chris Jericho's he's old now, and so he's not as fit as he used to be. And even when he was in his prime, he wasn't that fit. Like he was always, you know what I mean? He's one of those guys who's always fat fit, like barrel-chested, you'd call him. But now he's a bit more barrel-chested. He's more barrel than he is chest. But the last Royal Rumble that he did, he just slid out of the ring for possibly 15 minutes. Like because I remember watching going, Chris Jericho's just hanging out, like, catching a breather on the side of the ring. Like, I think you're going to stay involved, like, grab guys' legs and all that kind of stuff. But, that's
but essentially
the rule.
You can have a bit of a smoko for a couple of rounds while people are
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And I think the other thing, too, is you don't want to see, like, there's a certain number of guys in the ring where it just becomes impossible to pull off any moves or do anything cool. Like, it doesn't matter if a couple of guys are taking a smoko. Because you want to like keep the action going in the center of the ring.
Yeah, okay. So, but that's a good tactic, surely, if you're in early. Is it a lottery system? How do they come up with the order of the Royal Rumble?
That's a good question. Michael, can you just bring up the Royal Rumble on Wikipedia? I'm not sure. I think the winner of the Royal Rumble goes to WrestleMania. I know that much. That's the incentive to win. But I'm not sure how they pick the entries. And I think there's only a couple of guys who have won it from first place.
Yeah, because like if you're going into the ring first, okay, Mike Hell's got it up there. So, because if you're going in first place, clearly you want to be thrown out at some stage and get a bit of a breather while other people are beating up on each other. That's got to be one of your tactics early on.
Yeah. My tactic would be just to hide. Like I would just like the first 3 minutes where it's just one-on-one, I'd just run, just keep running around the ring, like just try and catch me. And then when the other guy gets in the ring, I'd somehow engineer the fight between them and then just hide. And then I would just proceed to keep hiding.
Just constantly hiding behind someone else or like blending in with one of the poles in the ring or like, being out on the announcer in the crowd with like
my
a
outfit,
sign in front of your face.
I'll come out in like head to toe in like a bobsledding outfit that is the exact color of the ring. So I'll just starfish it. It's just like, where's Clausen? Where's he gone? You just see my head and my hands and my feet.
Because technically you could lay on the floor of the mat, and as long as nobody laid on top of you and tagged you out, you're still in the match. It doesn't matter that you're laying down, right?
As long as no one picks you up, you still get a bit tossed out of the ring. In fact, what you could do, you could go into the ring with a chain and a padlock and bolt yourself, like drill a hole in the middle of the mat and bolt yourself to it. Because then no one can throw you over. You're going to win.
Or at the very least, as you're coming in, making your entrance, like you've got some sort of uniform on that is like padded because you want it, like, because people are going to stomp you and stuff like that to try to make you move. So you've got to get some sort of padding. But you're also just pouring, like some of them will pour bottles of water or bottles of oil over their chest at the top of the thing. You're just pouring clag and like yoo-hoo sticks and stuff like that, so that when you get into the ring, you immediately just slam onto the floor and stick to the floor.
I love it. I mean, you should build your entire gimmick around that. You should be a specialist wrestler who only comes in for the Royal Rumble.
Right.
And you could call yourself like Snot or something. Like, just covered in goo.
The human chewing gum. You just can't get him off the floor.
Here comes mucus. I could totally hear, like, I don't know, Puddle of Mud doing my entrance music.
Sticky stains.
Sticky Stains. That is a much better wrestling name. Sticky Stains from Parts Unknown. That's a great wrestling name.
All right. Do you have some information about the Royal Rumble?
Yeah, can you read it? Because as we just found out when I was before we started recording, when I was reading an ad, I can't read, so I think Mike Hal put a link in the message window, and it'd just be less painful for everyone if I just not try and read anymore.
I've got my glasses on. All right, here we go. The Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble is a professional wrestling event produced every January since 1988. I mean, that's a lot of years of the Royal Rumble, isn't it? Like, it's got some genuine
31.
history. All right. After the initial event, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the event itself. This is what we want. Okay, you know what? I've gone to the actual 2019 page on Wikipedia of the Royal Rumble because it's going to give us, better information about what's going on. So, here we go. It's an ongoing pay-per-view event, as we know. It takes place on January 27, 2019 at Chase Field in Phoenix, Arizona. It is the 32nd event promoted under the Royal Rumble chronology. So there's been 32 Royal Rumbles. Huh. As a tradition, the winner of the men's and women's Royal Rumble matches will earn a World Championship and Women's Championship match at WrestleMania. So you're right.
Okay, right.
So it's happening this year as well. The men will have their choice of either Raw's Universal Championship or SmackDown's WWE Championship, while the women can choose, blah, blah, blah. The storyline.
So if you had to choose between the WWE Championship or the Universal Champion, which one are you going for?
Well, I mean, whichever one that they're paying me to go for, Charlie. Like whatever one the writers and the people who come up with the storylines have determined that I am going for. That is the one that I would choose. They are both made up titles and they don't really mean anything. So I guess one imaginary title over the other imaginary title, I would not really worry one way or the other.
Sticky Stains doesn't want any creative input in his storylines.
I've come up with the name and the gimmick, guys. I feel like I've given you more than enough to work with. And much like the sticky stain I am, I'm just going to now lay on the floor. That's what I do in all meetings.
You just go into Vince McMahon's office and just starfish it face down on the floor.
All right. The card will include matches that result from scripted storylines where wrestlers portray heroes. I mean, this is a real background on wrestling, to be honest. Wrestlers portray heroes, villains, or less distinguishable characters on Raw, SmackDown, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, all right. Okay, that's almost too
Does it have the
much
rules?
information, to be honest. All right, this is not that good either. I need rules of the Royal Rumble. Okay. That one was just going to tell me about every single match leading up to it.
Well, here's something I'll tell you, Will, about having gotten back into wrestling recently. Is their fandom is on par with like Trekkies and stuff. Like dudes who are into wrestling are way into wrestling. Like when you Google some wrestlers, like or go to Wikipedia, go to some wrestler's page, you will get every single match they competed in, how it went down, what people wrote about it. It's insane the amount of podcasts that are dedicated to wrestling. Like it's crazy.
Okay, here we go. This is good. Forbes magazine is writing about the wrestling, Charlie.
Okay,
I've gone straight to the highest.
I imagine it's a column by the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase.
All right, here we go. So these are your potential surprise entrants for the Royal Rumble. He's written an article about that. So this is right up our alley. This is better. So potential surprise entrants. The Undertaker. Speculators have opined about the dead man making an appearance during the Lesnar-Baylor match, but I believe it's possible he could be actually part of the Rumble. It seems no one is expecting him to have his number called. While Taker is normally associated with WrestleMania, there's no reason he can't shock the world at the Rumble before his annual match at the Showcase of the Immortals. All right, what do you think of that?
Well, if anyone saw the match he had in Melbourne about 6 months ago against Triple H, it was, I mean, he looks like he should just take it easy.
Looks like he should consult another Undertaker. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah. He just looks a little slow. He's lost a yard or two, old Taker.
The Undertaker came to Melbourne and fought in a match against the women from White Ladies Funerals.
No, Will. He took on the Tobin brothers.
They both would be good wrestling names.
You know what his favourite TV show is?
What?
6 Feet Under.
Oh, boo.
Oh, boo to you. Continue.
Bray Wyatt. Who's Bray Wyatt? It's about time for Wyatt to reappear. He's been gone for a while. He teased a different...
His gimmick is kind of like white trash, scary kind of white trash, like True Detective, American Gothic. He comes to the ring and it's all dark and he's got like a lantern, like he's walking through a swamp. He's got a beard. He's all creepy. He does this weird like spider walk, like from The Exorcist when he's in the ring. He's a real weirdo.
I'm pretty intrigued, to be honest with that. But apparently he teased a different persona and that it would appear at the Rumble. So there's a chance that Bray Wyatt's going to unleash his new persona at the Royal Rumble.
I'd love to see what that is.
The Velveteen Dream. Velveteen Dream seems like the most likely call-up. He's not embroiled in an NXT storyline that would be a major deal to interrupt, and he's the kind of presence who could make an immediate splash. Do you know anything about the Velveteen Dream?
No, I don't know anything about the Velveteen Dream. Great name, though. Almost as good as Sticky Stains.
I'd like to see Sticky Stains up against the Velveteen Dream. I don't believe that Sticky Stains... I believe that Velveteen is not something you want Sticky Stains associated with.
Yeah, exactly. I had a Velveteen Dream last night and woke up with Sticky Stains.
Yeah, I'm about to give you a Velveteen Nightmare, if you know what I'm saying. That's his killer move. It's the Wet Nightmare. They call him the Wet Nightmare.
The Wet Nightmare.
Most people have wet dreams. I give you wet nightmares. I'm Sticky Stains.
Oh, God, that should be... All right, Sticky Stains and Wet Nightmare of a tag team. It's called Shame. They're just called Shame.
All right. So here are the major storylines in the Rumble. John Cena's injury. John Cena is an entrant in the Rumble. However, the WWE revealed Cena injured his ankle and is questionable for the match. Rumors swirled about the injury being part of the storyline, although Cena is selling it on Twitter. Will he or won't he have his number called on Sunday?
Don't know.
Okay. Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins issues. The Scottish Psycho. Oh, good. I like that. The Scottish Psycho.
It's actually the Scottish Psychopath. I'm going to have to correct him there.
Is that right? The Scottish Psychopath and the Kingslayer. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Seth Rollins is good. I like Seth.
could have one of the most entertaining feuds in years. We've seen it simmer in the weeks leading up to Rumble, and McIntyre played a major role in the angle that led up to the disbanding of The Shield. Oh, who were The Shield?
Okay, so the Shield were like they're the Hounds of Justice, Will.
Based
Yeah,
on the
basically.
Michael Chiklis television show, I
Yeah.
imagine, right?
No, they were three guys all in like black tactical gear, and the gimmick was they were heels to begin with, and the gimmick was they were like mercenaries, like hired goons to come in and kick some ass. They're just running right through the WWE, and then they turned good, so they pivoted the image from being mercenaries to being like vigilantes. So when they come in, they have this entrance where they won't come down the ramp; they'll enter via the audience, and so everyone's like goes crazy and stuff, and they're finishing their kind of like signature whatever is their finishing move is like a power bomb, but then they'll all stick their fists out, like thrust their fists out and bump fists together at the camera.
Okay, I'm in. That sounds
Yeah.
intriguing to me.
And I think
Bobby,
it's the Rock's cousin is Roman Reigns. Have you heard of Roman Reigns? He's the guy that's been giving a big push at the moment. He was the Universal Champion, then he was diagnosed with leukemia. So he's taken time out of wrestling. But I think he's the Rock's cousin.
So I've met Roman Reigns.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. Because
Where?
he was like the face of the WWE when it came to Australia, and we had him in the studio, and he was a really nice guy. He seemed like he was genuinely, seemed like a sweet kind of really nice guy. Is he a nice guy wrestler?
Well, because he started as a heel and then he became a good guy, but he's had this real problem getting over Roman Reigns because Vince McMahon basically anointed him about 2 years ago. You know how there's always one franchise guy, Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, John Cena. And so Vince just decided Roman Reigns is going to be the next, 10-year franchise guy for the WWE. But I think he'd come from football, so he was fairly inexperienced compared to the other guys. And so people felt that he was getting a push too early. And the fans just did not, it wasn't organic. They were definitely not into it. So they would boo him as much as they would cheer him. And it's kind of like John Cena's had that whole thing as well. Like the guys who are real company men, the real hardcore wrestling fans don't take to very well. So, he's kind of hasn't won people over yet, but this leukemia diagnosis has won him a lot of sympathy.
Well, I guess that's the upside of getting leukemia, I suppose. Because that's a positive, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it. Yeah, Roman Reigns, it doesn't quite sound like a wrestler's name. Like, I get that it's got that great alliteration, but there's just a part of it that sounds a bit too porn star. Like, I think Roman Reigns should be making a porn movie with Sticky Stains. Sticky Stains and Roman Reigns.
Well, it's funny. You've actually met, like, The Rock's family. Like, you've met The Rock. You've met The Rock's cousin. Like, you'll be getting invited around for Christmas dinner soon.
I mean, I should have started finagling my way in. I was like, oh, no, your cousin.
Did you drop The Rock's name? Did you say you'd met The Rock?
No, I didn't say that I'd met The Rock. No. Well, A, I didn't really know that was the case at the time. And B, I guess I probably would have. But then I probably would have had to tell him that it was the greatest day of my entire life and I've never been more excited about anything. And then he might have just started backing away from me slowly. He just looks at me like, you're the worst thing that's happened to me this year. And I've got leukemia.
I'm sure he's quite used to people coming up and telling him that meeting his cousin was the greatest day of their life.
Well, if you're anyone but The Rock, you aren't as good as The Rock. Like, I think we've come to that. I think we've all agreed on that. So I guess everybody pales in comparison to The Rock. The Rock is one of those people that certainly I was not the person who discovered The Rock, but I would like to say that I raised the flag and, on the fact that I love The Rock pretty early on.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're one of those guys who's like, I like their old stuff better than the new stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I mean, do I? I think I kind of like the new stuff. There was something pretty magical about when he was just a wrestler. Like, if you were into wrestling when he came on and you got it, like you knew what he was doing and you could see that he was having fun with it and the way he was breaking the fourth wall. And like, I think it was pretty cool to see happening.
Yeah, I look at The Rock's movie career much like I look at the Foo Fighters. They're pretty good, but they're no Nirvana. And that's okay. Like, the Foo Fighters is still pretty good. Yes,
Have you
I'm
seen,
saying that Rock's wrestling career was the equivalent of Nirvana.
Have you seen not Welcome to the Jungle? What's the Jumanji one? Is it just called Jumanji? Jumanji 2 or something? The one that he did, the remake?
If you smell what the Teen Rock is cooking. Sorry, I had to go back for that. It was in my head.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Have you seen the new Jumanji with The Rock?
No, I haven't seen it. I don't
It's
think I've seen
really-
the old Jumanji. I think I've never seen a Jumanji.
You wouldn't need to see Jumanji. I mean, it's really good. It's one of those films that I remember seeing the trailer for, and like 5 seconds into the trailer, I'm like, ugh, Jumanji 2. And then by the end of it, I'm like, I'm going to go see that in the cinema. Like, it's just such a good time. And it harnesses everything that's great about The Rock. Like, he's funny, he's heroic. It's just like a charisma 101.
Did it answer a lot of the unanswered questions from the original Jumanji?
I don't think I've seen the original Jumanji, so I don't know.
Okay, but you didn't feel like you'd lost anything going into Jumanji cold.
No, not
you
at
could
all.
still keep up with the Jumanji plotline,
Yes.
the Jumanji backstory, the Jumanji
Yeah.
universe, the Jumanjiverse. I just like saying Jumanji. I'm sorry.
Who's after Roman Reigns?
All right, here's another potential storyline. Bobby Lashley's push. Apart from Finn Balor, Bobby Lashley might be getting the strongest
Finn
push
Balor.
of anyone. Balor, sorry.
Finn Balor.
Good, that's good. So apart from Finn Balor, like Balor, Bobby Lashley might be getting the strongest push of anyone in the WWE. He recently defeated Rollins and won the Intercontinental title, and it's not crazy to think he could win the Rumble. With Leo Rush, a new age uber athletic hybrid between Slick and Paul Heyman by Lashley's side, the sky might be the limit. Who's Leo Rush?
I have no idea.
Okay. Is Ronda Rousey still wrestling? Is she in the Royal Rumble?
Yeah, she's the female champion.
Oh,
Yeah.
is she?
Yeah. They've taken to her. She's one person who hasn't had trouble transitioning. They love her.
Okay, that's good. Well, that's it.
Well, you know, the interesting thing about this Royal Rumble, in fact, the interesting thing about wrestling this year is, I'm not sure if you know, but there's a new wrestling, like major wrestling organization has just been launched in the last couple of weeks called AEW. Cody Rhodes, son of Dusty Rhodes, brother of Stardust, whatever his name was.
cousin of Country Roads.
Country Roads.
Yep.
Has gone out and met up with a billionaire and is starting a rival organization to the WWE, and they've got all these big stars from competitions like the Japanese wrestling, and Chris Jericho is there. Chris Jericho is taking a nice big paycheck to launch this as well, and it's going to be the first proper challenger to the WWE since WCW folded in the late 90s. So it'll be interesting to see, because there is no competition to the WWE, and it's going to be interesting to see how someone takes on. It's like taking on Marvel or taking on Star Wars or McDonald's or just some massive corporation.
What is their hook going to be? Do we know? Are they going to try to do something differently?
Yeah, I think their hook will be
No one wrestles.
People have been
There's
complaining
absolutely
about,
no body contact.
Well, people are just complaining that the WWE product has gotten stale, that it's because Vince still pulls all the strings and it's the same writers and it's the same family controlling it. And it just feels old and stale. They became a PG-rated entertainment organization a few years ago, so since the Attitude Era. So what they say that the AEW will provide is stuff that just pushes the envelope a bit more. The wrestling will be a bit more interesting. The storylines won't be as kind of forced or lame. Like, Vince has certain kind of things that he loves about, like he loves really big guys, and he doesn't give smaller guys a push, whereas the AEW has lots of smaller wrestlers who are more agile and can do better tricks and all that kind of stuff. So I think it'll be a combination of like just more hip storylines. Like, they're young guys who are starting this, so they're probably more in touch with what people want. It's like network television versus like streaming. That's what I think it'll be. That's the difference. Is they're just going to be delivering sort of completely something completely different in terms of tone and what they can get away with and the point of view.
Well, two things. Firstly, I want a wrestling league that's started by two college dropouts who've looked at major wrestling and thought, we've got to cut out the middleman. But
Yeah.
secondly, this feels like this AEW, is it? AEW?
Yeah.
Feels
All
like the sort of
elite
operation
wrestling.
that I should be taking Sticky Stains over to. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that I should be taking Sticky Stains to the WWE. I should be taking Sticky Stains straight over to AEW to wrestle Chris Jericho.
I wonder if that's like, I mean, they do have writers in the wrestling, but that would be a fucking great job, wouldn't it? Like, just to sit back and think up gimmicks for people and backstories and storylines and stuff. Like, I think I'd enjoy that. I mean, I'm sure after a while, like, my bosses would come to me and say, look, we can't have another contract signing in the middle of the ring that goes awry. Because as we've talked about in the show, that's my favorite thing, is when someone signs a contract or gets married in the middle of the ring and they always get ambushed. And it's like, why book your big event in the middle of the ring? Like, stadium is filled with offices. We can go somewhere else, somewhere safe, somewhere secure and private. Why do you want to do it here?
So funny, Charlie, that you've come in and you've decided that our big offering to go head to head with WrestleMania will be contract night.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that, like, you just have everything contract, like, related. So, like, when they're doing the Royal Rumble, it's like there's one contract in the middle and everyone's trying to get the pen to sign, like, you know what I mean? Like, you just base it all around contract signings.
The whole thing. In fact, you don't even need a ring. It's like you and I can start like an independent wrestling outfit, and it's just an office. It's just like one by one, people come in to sign their contracts for some employment. They get ambushed, and then someone has to go through the desk. That's it. We clean it up. We put another desk in there, bring in someone else, do it again.
I mean, but maybe we just pitch that as an idea to one of those, like, groovy startup companies, like, you know, a Google or somewhere that's, like, coming up with innovative ways to sort of, you know, get their new employees sort of thinking in a different way. Like, so we literally take that act to literal contract signings for companies. So we just, like, on contract signing day, they just give us a call and we come in and we reenact like a wrestling scenario with someone while they're trying to sign their contract to see how they cope with it.
I'd like just to start maybe a wedding. Like, maybe I'll become a celebrant,
Oh, yeah.
but all the weddings will take place in the ring. I think that'd be great.
Well, I imagine there must be people who get married.
Why
in
are all the
wrestling rings.
groomsmen so massive? They're all these like monsters, gorillas in suits.
Well, maybe that would be your theme. Like, everything has a theme. So, like, one night it is like, you know, it's contract night, and one night it's tax night, and one night it's like, do they do a, like, wrestling event on, like, Valentine's Day? Is there something that do they theme the nights in that sort of way where you go, okay, so on, like, Thursday, you know, February 14, it's, you know, it's Valentine's Day, you know, it's the Valentine's Day massacre, right? So all the storylines have sort of like a romantic subplot because it's the Valentine's Day show. You know, two guys fighting over a girl, or, like, you know, tag team, you know, of partners wrestling and, you know, stuff like that.
It's funny you should say that, because I'm actually going on Valentine's Day to see some wrestling. I'm taking Gemma to go see wrestling in Sydney. St. Valentine's Battle, Lucha Libre Mexican wrestling.
So is it themed? It's obviously themed Mexican, but is it themed Valentine's Day as well?
Yeah, it's looking this is what it's got on their Facebook page. Looking for the most original way to show that special person how much you care about them. Then you've found the best way. Take him or her to Lucha Fantastica's St. Valentine's Day Battle. Expect an amazing battle between the forces of love and evil, with a crazy match featuring one of our greatest stars, Cupido. Who will he be fighting against? Drink tequila, have a laugh, yell for your favorite luchador, share a beautiful evening with that special person, and bring your amigos as well. Expect, as always, Mexican folklore, luchadors and enmascarados, masked wrestlers doing a combination of sport, entertainment, and dramatic storytelling, all rolled up into a flamboyant display, wild and high-flying insanity. A combination of various fighting techniques like wrestling, judo, jiu-jitsu, grappling, kickboxing, and boxing. It is a mixture of all these combat art forms, blended with the elements of soap opera, dramatic storytelling, physical comedy, incredible athletics, suspense, and intrigue. Expect dos de tres caídas, 2 out of 3 falls, suicidas, suicide moves, desnucadores, power bombs, paradas voladoras, flying kicks, filominas, spin kicks, quebradoras, spinning backbreaker, and tapatillas, huracanes, and manita de perico. Expect mariachis and Tijuana. Real ones, see. Expect a Mexican fiesta with DJs. Sounds fun, right?
Well, the way you say it in your fluent Spanish really brought it to life. It does sound fun. It sounds really like a great night of entertainment. So I've got a couple of questions. My first one is around, I love when they list all the various techniques you will see, because I always love that grappling is listed as a technique. Now, I know that grappling is a genuine sort of, martial art and, technique of, fighting and those sort of things. But it always, when it's up against like karate and jujitsu and then grappling, it always feels like if I had to be able to do any of those, I'd back myself to do some grappling. I don't think I can do any jujitsu, but I reckon I could bust out some awkward grappling.
When you read grappling, what you hear or imagine is scrapping, isn't it? Like grappling requires technique, like repetition to perfect. You're just thinking like wildly flailing about, swinging limbs, trying to hit something, trying to grab something, biting, scratching.
Yeah, but what I'm basically saying is, of all of those techniques, grappling would be the one that an amateur can pretend that they know how to do. Like, it's very hard for me to pretend I know jiu-jitsu, but if I get close enough to somebody else, I reckon I could pretend I'm grappling. Do you know what I mean? I could do some amateur grappling in a way that I can't bust out any other amateur moves. Okay, the second thing is, are you going to this thing because you've heard that it's good? Like, has someone put you onto this saying it's good?
It just it came up in my Facebook feed. I guess algorithms directed wrestling to me because they've been following my YouTube activities and stuff. And I watched the videos and it looked fun. And when I was in LA last year, I tried to get out because I think it's a bit of an underground thing. You know how like roller derby got really big a few years ago, where everyone would go out and see roller derby and you'd drink and listen to rock and roll and all that kind of stuff. I think that's what's happening with independent wrestling. Is it's sort of become a hipster kind of thing where you go, there's like a bar will put up a ring and guys will come in and, wrestle and stuff, and you can drink beers and listen to music and stuff. And it's sort of like a fun time. So I've always had it in my head that I'd like to do it, but I didn't know anywhere in Australia that did it. So that came up in my feed, and I've never seen any Mexican wrestling before, but I watched a couple of videos. I thought, this looks fun. So I just sent Jim a message and said, do you want to go to wrestling for Valentine's Day? She said, yes. I was like, brilliant. I knew it was the reason I married you.
There's so much about this I love, though, because let's assume, because it does sound good and it sounds very professionally put out there and all those sort of things. So let's just assume it'll be a thing that a whole bunch of people do. However, there's got to be a possibility that you rock up and it's just you and Jem and a whole bunch of blokes.
Oh, totally.
Like, even in their lovely description, they said, bring your loved one and also bring a group of amigos. Because we understand that we're probably not pitching this to all the romantic couples in Sydney.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, with the fanaticism of wrestling fans is kind of similar to people who like Star Trek. I also think it's kind of like indie comedy, alternative comedy. Like, it's a similar, because it's kind of ironic, but it's not like. So I think probably will be predominantly dudes, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if there's like 30 to 40% women who are kind of there because they get it.
I'm hoping that it's not. I'm hoping it's just you and Jem and a whole bunch of guys.
Yeah, and a hardcore wrestling audience. Not people who are there for a laugh and a drink, but dudes who like seriously want to see some violence.
But are also no good at it. I hope they're really hopeless. You get there, they've all got fake moustaches on their faces, and it's just you and Jem and a bunch of blokes, and it's real scary.
All right, let's go into some letters.
I quickly have to, just before we get to the letters, I have to, because we did talk about the Super Bowl last week, and I need to give you a little update on that, because I was actually meant to be at the Super Bowl this weekend as an expert commentator. As anyone who listened to last week's podcast would know, we are NFL experts.
I did see someone online describe our discussing the playoffs as painful. Painful.
Well, you know what? I read that reply and I found it a little painful as well. So there you go.
We're even.
TOFOP. We're even. So I was meant to be going to the Super Bowl for my day job, and it was going to be a big trip at the start of the year. In fact, I was going to go to San Francisco, do the Sketch Fest, and then I was going to do some live shows with the Dollop, and then I was going to roll into some radio over there, go to see the basketball, go to G'day USA, and then I was going to head to the Super Bowl, and it was going to be a pretty fun way to start the year. But as you know, from the fact that we are on Skype and I'm sitting in my house in Melbourne, I am not doing any of those things. I apologise to anyone who wanted to come out and see me at those shows, but my work visa that I was reapplying for was held up in the American government shutting down for a month. And So in the meantime, I emerged in an emergency mode, tried to get a media visa. I had to cancel the shows because I couldn't do them on the media visa. But I tried to get a media visa so I could still go to the Super Bowl, and it did not come through in time.
Oh.
So I am not going anymore.
Oh, God, that's awful. Thoughts and prayers, Will.
Well, you know what? It's funny because the only thing that's getting me through it is the fact that the halftime entertainment is Maroon 5.
Yeah,
Like, if it was a really good band, I would be devastated. If it was like Bruce Springsteen and like Lady Gaga or something, I would like be swimming over there right now and like sneaking into the country. I would be getting some costumes from your Mexican wrestling night and going across the border trying to get to the game.
Oh, that sucks. That really sucks. All right, let's read some letters. Thank you to everyone who has signed up to Patreon. I've seen there's been a little bump recently, which is great. We appreciate it. And of
Thank
course,
you.
I assume you're all signing up because you want to win one of these coveted TOFOP sticker books, limited edition 1 in 50. 3 have gone out already, or maybe 4. I can't really remember. I think I sent 2 to begin with. So if your chance to win one of these TOFOP sticker books, you just send us a message via Patreon. Will and I will read it out. We'll vote on which letter we thought was best, and we'll send you a sticker book. Just remember to include your name and address. So far, everyone I've had to chase up, don't make me do that. Just include it on the off chance that you win.
Yes, we'd like all your names and addresses. We're starting a data mining company.
First message is from Vanessa. She says, "Hey, Will and Charlie, I'm attempting to win a sticker sheet. Take 2. My first draft was lost when my computer went to sleep, so this is what you're getting, not wordsmithing. I recently listened to one of the latest philosophies, the one with Mikey Robbins. Will mentions a time at uni that he made deep-fried pizza sandwich while possibly stoned. Well, Charlie may already be aware of this due to his choice in his spouse, but Will, you basically made the fantastic Scottish delicacy pizza crunch. It's a shitty frozen margarita pizza that's been battered and deep-fried. Then you must smother it in salt and vinegar. Sorry, I just fucking gagged reading that. This treat is available in all good Scottish chippies. Next time you're there, order a pizza crunch supper. Supper equals plus chips. Because you always need more yellow food. God bless Scotland. All the usual chat about I like what you say and you keep me company in the lonely, boring hours, etc., etc. Love, Ness. Thank you, Ness. Well, it's off to a good start. Scottish food, Will. Do you want to start? I got a lot to
Thank you,
say about
Ness. Not from Loch Ness, though, but Scottish.
Yeah.
That sounded delicious. You said that you gagged a little. I started drooling. I started when my dog's mouth starts salivating when she knows that I'm making dinner. I was doing that as that was being described. So essentially, because I love a potato cake and I love pizza, and this is just essentially like a potato cake
a margarita. A deep-fried margarita pizza.
Oh, yes.
You know, I had a pizza last Friday, and I haven't had pizza in a while, and I was really looking forward to it. And I got myself an old school Hawaiian pizza, shaved ham and pineapple and stuff. And I was so looking forward to this pizza, and it was not worth it. It was the kind of purchase, where you sort of really build something up in your head, and then you get it, and it's not quite what you wanted. But rather than just going, oh, well, no harm, no foul, maybe I'll see if someone else wants this or what, toss it in the bin. You eat it. You eat it kind of begrudgingly. I ate the whole thing and didn't enjoy it at all. It's kind of like you in Smallville.
And did you get the Smallville pizza or did you get the Mediumville? The Familyville?
I got the Smallville pizza. It wasn't a massive pizza, but it was about 6 slices of pizza that I did not enjoy. I was so disappointed too, because I was like, I had been thinking about it and I'd really been fetishizing it and stuff. And it's like, oh, well, I guess I'm done with it. That pizza store. I think specifically around me, there's no good pizza.
We got hamburgers yesterday, and there are a lot of fancy hamburger shops, these days that you can get on delivery services. And
really are.
We've had a really good run, but we tried somewhere different. It was a kind of weird hour of the day. It was sort of in between sort of lunch and dinner. Not everything was open. We went with something that was a bit local that looked fantastic, and it was terrible.
Oh no.
The same experience where I was just like, oh man, it takes a lot for me to not eat the whole hamburger that I've just ordered. But and it was close to home too. So there was not even any, it came really quickly after they made it. It got delivered to the house. It was just There was no excuses. I almost walked the 2 minutes down to the shop to tell them how terrible it was. I was like, this was too far for me to walk to get this food, but it is not too far for me to walk to complain about this food.
Jason writes in, "Hey TOFOP, hey Will and Charlie. I thought I would write you with a question to get you guys back on track, as not long ago you said you might have to change the intro as you rarely talk about Batman or time travel these days. So here we go. As we know, DC have made a few missteps when it comes to their live-action movies. Did you see Aquaman? I saw you post something with Gatesy.
Gatesy and I went to see Aquaman at IMAX. He had already seen it, and we went out for a drink one night, and he tried to convince me. He was like, "No, it's good. Like you've got to understand it's good." And we had a great laugh for about 2 hours while I asked him questions about it and made him like justify whether it was good or not. And then he said, "All right, I'm going to book us tickets to go and see it at IMAX." But I knew that he thought that I would pull out at the last moment. And so because I knew that he knew that I was going to pull out, I was like, fuck it, I'm not going to pull out. I'm going to do it. I'm actually going to go and see. Like,
So, what kind of chicken were you playing? Aqua chicken.
So we went to see it at the IMAX in Melbourne, which is at the what is it? The museum,
Exhibition Gardens.
Yeah, the exhibition. Yeah, the big IMAX there. So it's a brilliant, huge screen.
It's awesome.
And I just like going to the movies. Like, to be honest, like I'm happy to just get out of the house and eat some popcorn. In the cold. So I was excited about it. We got some beers and, got some popcorn, and Casey was like, "Can we share popcorn?" And I was like, "I don't know if you've been to the movies with me lately, but we're not sharing popcorn. In fact, I will have some." Yes, we can. I can share some of the one that you're also getting when I run out of my popcorn. And I had forgotten, I hadn't forgotten that Gatesy didn't watch previews, because he has a theory that he doesn't want to see anything about anything before he goes. And I'm starting to come around to that way of thinking.
Yeah,
I think I told you with the assassination of Gianni Versace, I love that so much because there was just none of it that I knew about before I went into it. And I think there's actually really something in that now. But I didn't realize that it meant that I thought we'd just wait until the previews were done and then go and sit in our seats. But no. We go into the movies, and then when the previews come on, he puts his head in his lap and he puts on headphones so that it can block out the noise, so none of it leaks in.
Is that like Rain Man when you're trying to check Rain Man on a plane?
But honestly, that's what it's like. So that's what it must look like to other people. They must this guy has autism or whatever, and this is how he deals with the loud noises or something at the start, and that's absolutely fine, But that's not what he's doing. He just doesn't want to see the trailers for fucking the Justice League.
That's so funny. That is like one time my sister's very sensitive to noise, and we went out for dinner in the city at this fast-paced, bustling city restaurant. And she was, the music was driving her mental, and she'd asked them to turn it down, and they just kind of shrugged their shoulders. Were like, "Sorry, this is the kind of establishment is we don't turn the music down." And so my sister, in protest, grabbed 2 napkins, screwed them up, and stuck them in her ears. She looked like she had these 2 tampons sticking out of her ears, and she just sat there defiantly at our table, staring at the wait staff as they walked past. And I'm like, you realize you're the insane person in this situation.
Well, we had the opposite the other night. We went out to dinner in Tasmania, and the seat in the restaurant that we were sitting at, and it was quite a nice place, was just under a light. So it was a little bit bright on our table, but not even... not the sort of thing that would have really bothered you, but the sort of thing that if it was easy to turn down, you would can you turn this down a little? So we asked if that was easy to do, and they were so nice about it. They went and turned it down, but it wasn't just our table. That light was connected to all the lights in the restaurant. So essentially they just turned down the light in the entire restaurant. So everyone else was suddenly just eating in darkness because it was a bit bright for us.
Now you know what it's like to be kingpin. When you ask to turn the lights down, everyone gets the lights turned down.
I really enjoyed the power, I've got to be honest with you. So we saw Aquaman. Did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it just after Christmas. I enjoyed it. You know what? I mean, it was so batshit insane. I was able to sit back, a bit like, that Flash Gordon movie, and be like, I think the fun of this film would have been in the designing of it, the putting it together. I would have loved to have seen those production meetings where they're just going through concept art and this is where the giant crab punches the shark in the face and there's someone riding it. There There was just some. I remember I was laughing out loud during parts of it because I'm like, this is someone who spent hundreds of millions of dollars to put this on screen, and like it was. I didn't mind it. It passed the time fine. I don't remember anything about it, but it didn't annoy me.
Yeah, well, I mean, basically, you've said you've enjoyed it in the same way you'd enjoy someone just setting on fire a large pile of money.
Yeah,
It's visually impressive, and you're like, look at that! I can't believe they did that.
yeah, totally.
There are three things I don't like in movies. One
Yeah.
is movies that could be described as visually spectacular. I'm not impressed by visuals. It's not really my thing. And the other two are movies that are set in space and movies that are set underwater. And this movie is all of those three things. It is mostly underwater space. It's like you're watching a space movie, but it's also fucking underwater. It is, God, I just wanted to...
Nicole Kidman wearing dead fish. Oscar winner Nicole Kidman dressed in dead fish. Didn't that make you just feel like amazing?
No.
Like what a day on set.
It made me feel like I'm dirty, you're dirty. No wonder he's... Like, do you remember that bit where he's got BO and they're underwater?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like,
Underwater!
What is going on in this movie? Like, he's got
love
BO and he's in the ocean. Like, I understand he's been physically exerting himself, but he's also in the ocean. Like, how does he have BO and be in the ocean? And how can he smell it? Anyway.
Imagine how bad you have to stink to be able to smell it through water, Will.
But also, everyone's like, you're surrounded by fish smell. Like, who knows even what you consider BO? If you got used to the smell of fish all the time, then maybe what you consider BO is actually really like issey miyake or something. You're licking issey miyake from your beautiful fucking armpits because every bit of you is a fucking picture that should be in a gallery so people can study the best that men can be. Like, of course, like when Jason Momoa sweats, it smells like $300 cologne, I bet.
I reckon it smells like Axe body spray.
Mate, he would make Axe body spray smell good. Put it that way.
Jason continues. If you could go back in time and make one change to a Batman film or a film featuring Batman, what would have that would have the most impactful knock-on effect? What would it be? Basically, we're trying to manipulate the butterfly effect, the Batterfly effect, you might call it. Do you want to go first? Make a Batman change?
Yeah, Heath Ledger doesn't die at the end of The Dark Knight. I mean, Look, it's a pretty big change, but we're going hypothetically here. I would have loved to see that third Batman film with like the Joker, and the only person who could have played the Joker in that film was Heath Ledger. And to see what they would have done with that character, like after how amazing that performance was and how amazing that movie was, I just think they had plans for that character in that third movie, and like Tom Hardy did a great job making Bane into almost like a character as big as the Joker. But if you'd managed to have the Joker in there, as part of that storyline and Bane as part of that storyline, then, that movie potentially could have been a greater movie than The Dark Knight.
I'm going to make a suggestion. What if...
Also, Heath Ledger would still be alive. And I think that's a very generous thing for me to wish, considering that we had our own mixed past.
If I was to make a change, you know how like Batman versus Superman, it's kind of has echoes of The Dark Knight. Like there's bits of The Dark Knight. They don't go all the way, but they sort of take panels and storylines from The Dark Knight. What if instead of casting Ben Affleck as Batman, they had brought back Michael Keaton? Because in the Dark Knight comic, Batman is like 20 years retired. He's in his 60s. He's yearning for death because not being Batman is driving him mental, and then he comes back to take on the threat. If they had done that, I probably would have been more interested. Because it also makes sense when he puts on all that mech armor, like Michael Keaton against Henry Cavill is going to need to put on a lot of armor.
I love it. I think that's really good. That would have been absolutely fantastic. Or if Batman versus Superman had just literally been an entire movie where it was Batman versus Superman just in challenges. Do you know what I mean? Like if there was just a series, if the whole movie was like, essentially we're going to have a competition, Batman versus Superman, and we each get to propose like, so the rules are that each side, like when you're putting together a presidential debate or whatever, you have like advanced committees, like Alfred goes and meets with, with Lois Lane or whatever, and they nut out some...
This sounds like a segment that you would have like on live television, like Hey It's Saturday, where they'd cut to the OB, and there'd be two teams of three, and they have to do like three kind of wacky things, like ride a kid's bike around, a circuit, and then you got to like carry a ball on your nose across a line, all that. If it was like that, like goofy, like live TV games that Batman and Superman had to do for 3 hours?
I think basically there would be, so like say Superman's side could suggest 10 things and Batman's side could suggest 10 things. And then like the producers of the challenge, the TV show Batman versus Superman, they get to throw in 5 sort of deciding challenges. So obviously Superman is probably going to lean towards challenges that, his super speed and his super strength and like these sort of things are going to, and whereas like Batman's probably going to go for things like, solving puzzles, more about your mind, those sort of challenges, games of chess and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then there's 5 extra challenges that the TV producers have thrown in, which can include It's a Knockout style TV games.
Backup question. If that one has not provided sufficient talking points, here's a second question. Well, we got a lot out of that, but let's see anyway. I have a podcast called Batman versus the World, and each week we discuss how Batman could beat another character from pop culture. So if you could have Batman go up against anyone, who would it be, and would he win? Well, it just depends who the opponent is, right? Is it anyone from like the world or anyone from fiction? Batman versus the world, I guess it's anyone. Well, he would have to beat everyone. He's meant to be the world's most finely trained athlete and hand-to-hand combatant, right?
Well, maybe it would be Batman versus Batman. So what you want to see is you want to see Michael Keaton's Batman versus Ben Affleck's Batman, or you want to see Christian Bale's Batman versus George Clooney's Batman.
I think that YouTube mashup exists.
Right.
Where someone has cut together fight scenes. Thanks for reading this. I hope the fact that I'm all the way in the UK doesn't mean I'm too far for a potential sticker book that is a page and not a book. Jason, by the way, here's my email. Thanks, Jason. One last one is from Jess, and she's provided her address. So I haven't read this message yet, but I'm already leaning in her favour because she's been very proactive.
I mean, that's tough news for Jason, who I think really provided 2 pretty solid riffs for us and a whole lot of content, had really gone to an effort of thinking about what he was going to write in all the way from the UK, brought some Batman back to the podcast, and Jess has just managed to include her address, and therefore she's the winner.
Wait a minute, we haven't got there yet. Hi, Will and Charlie. So some of the dream talk in earlier TOFOP respondents reminded me of a fairly bizarre TOFOP dream I had several years ago. I love these TOFOP dreams. It was around the time when Charlie got the home and away job and had to stop doing the podcast. In the dream, Will was desperate to find some way to continue recording TOFOP with Charlie. He knew there was every chance Charlie could return to the pod at some point down the track, but he was also impatient and didn't fancy waiting around for that to happen. And so, in classic TOFOP fashion, Will turned to the magic of time travel to solve his problems. He decided to Skype to the future. In surprisingly short, is this a dream? This sounds very detailed for a dream.
I mean, I like it so far. I got to be honest with you.
Okay. In surprisingly short order, Will had established a video connection to 2042, 30 years into the future, and was online with the future Charlie. It was obvious some flavor of apocalypse had gone down, climate, nuclear, robot, maybe even a combination of the 3. Charlie was living in an elaborate domed city built into the sloping walls of what appeared to be a gigantic crater. Lush greenery. I mean, I know you hate visuals, Will, but she's doing a great job of describing this.
Oh, no. I love nothing more than people describing visuals. I just don't like looking at the visuals. I would much rather have listened to those visuals being described to me for the hour and a half at IMAX in that beautiful sound than actually seeing those visuals.
Lush greenery grew between the buildings, which were filled with incredible technology. So it's basically Wakanda. It wasn't clear what was outside the dome. In fact, it wasn't clear what had happened to the world at all. Because every time you started discussing what the future was like or whether the rise of the machines had happened, you'd both end up veering off on a tangent and talking about something completely unrelated instead, like Ian Ziering's current relationship status. I remember this detail distinctly. Will was very intent on getting to the bottom of it.
Well, firstly, his name is pronounced Ian because I have met Ian Ziering. I met him in Bondi. And I said, hello, Ian. And he said, thanks for saying it's Ian. And I said, it's definitely not Ian. And he said, no, Ian. And I said, I like his show, which I did.
Honestly, aside from the lack of time travel talk, it was more or less like a regular episode of TOFOP.
Do you reckon Ian Ziering ever says to people, I am Iron Man?
Probably. That's good. I like that, Will. Very clever. Wordplay. Okay. It was like a regular episode of TOFOP. Near the end of the episode, Will asked where his own future self was, and Charlie said fairly flatly, yeah, he didn't want to talk to you. From there, the conversation petered out awkwardly. Finally, Charlie said something like, let's not do this again. Will agreed. Yeah, no, this is weird. And then you both sat for a while in uncomfortable silence before disconnecting the call. At which point, I guess Will, having learned the virtue of patience, decided to dispense with the time travel and just rope in some guest Charlies for the podcast instead. Thanks for all the years of hilarious content. You guys are awesome. Cheers, Jess.
Well,
pretty good.
That was pretty good, but I feel like you're still weighting your response based on the fact she's already provided her address.
So,
well, here's
who
what
you gonna vote
I'd
for?
say about the future thing is that I quite like that. I actually think that's a cool idea. Like the idea that I'm talking to you in the future, and it would explain how angry you are at young people and all this conversation that we've had about bins of late and you complaining. Like if you are actually someone who is you from the future, that actually clears a lot of things up. I also I'm warmed by the fact that my future me didn't want to speak to me. I feel like that means that in the future I've got better standards. And I like the idea that we're still talking.
Yeah. I mean, well, you're talking to... Where am I in the present? Was that established?
You're at home and away.
Oh, right.
You're at Summer
So-
Bay, so I'm talking to you in the future because that's the only workaround I can come up with. And future me doesn't want to get involved. He doesn't want to talk to me, which I think is a good sign. But he's still talking to you because you've said you asked future me if he wanted to talk to me.
Would you want to talk to past you?
No.
No use.
Dear
You'd have
God,
nowhere on the timeline you want to speak to.
I
any
don't
version of yourself.
I don't know how you put up with it. Like, I would never want to talk to me.
Okay, so we need to vote. So it's either Vanessa with the deep fried tip, Jason with the Batman hypothetical, or Jess with her weirdo dream. You've made your favoritism clear. You like Jason.
I got to be honest with you though. I will say this: Jess came home strong. Like Jess was also great. I'm going to go with Jason or Jess.
Well, okay, Jason or Jess, and Michael, can you be the deciding vote? Use one of your algorithms to tell us who gets a sticker pack. Michael is offline.
He's typing.
Jess.
Jess.
Ooh, controversial. Well, that makes sense. He's a machine, ruthless efficiency. We've got the address. Send the sticker packet out. Well done. I agree. No, all great.
You
letters,
agree
and
because you have
please.
Jess's address and it's also not UK postage. I know why you agree. I understand how this shit went down. I'm sorry, Jason. Pure economics and Charlie's laziness has tainted this competition, this Royal Rumble.
If you want to send us a message, all you have to do is sign up to Patreon. Winner of the best message wins a sticker pack, which will be going out to Jess this week. Have we got time for one or two more T-mails, or what's your vibe? Yeah,
No, I can do another one if you want.
Okay. Well, these are from the general. This is from the general public. I'm assuming these are the non-subscribers. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. Anyway, this is from Derek. Hey, TOFOP. Hello, gentlemen. Derek here from Denver, Colorado, with a tantalizing TOFOP tidbit. I've been listening nearly since the start, around when Walking the Room began mentioning you as a sister pod. My tidbit is this. If a new study were to come out that revealed if a new study were to come out that revealed the starting discovery that somehow the emissions expelled from humans when laughing was a major contributor to climate change, how would you feel? Could you continue on with the show, assuming listeners actually laugh while listening to TOFOP? Love you guys. Thank you for the hours of enjoyment you've given me over the years. Okay, your best position to answer this as a provider of said pollution.
Well, you know what? It's funny that this actually comes up because it may not make the show. I'm not at that stage to be able to lock things in, but one of the ideas I've been toying around with the new show is that idea of trying to do a routine about the mindset of the fossil fuel companies that covered it up. Because, these fossil fuel companies who have deliberately spread disinformation about what is going to become a climate disaster for the planet, like that's a kind of moral reckoning you've got to make in your own head that is like my short-term gain is better than the long-term future on the planet of which we live, right? And so I wanted to try to write something that was along those ideas. So I was actually toying with something that was kind of a bit similar to this, which was
Right.
if it came out the comedy was bad, I hadn't actually linked it to the environment. I was going to go kind of if it was medically bad. Yeah, free idea. Thank you. It was very handy.
Yeah.
I actually, no. In fact, that's what I was thinking about. I thought of that first years ago, to be honest. I wrote it on a piece of paper with copyright next to it, which was weird to do at the time. I don't normally do it, but I remember specifically I did it at that time. I mailed it to myself.
I wrote it on the top of this newspaper, which has another date. It's today, but ignore that.
No, I faxed it to a newsagent who I paid $200 to change the date on a fax machine. All right. That idea that you would protect your own industry, or at least spread some disinformation about the negative side effects of the thing that you were self-interested in is, I mean, I guess if it turned out that laughter was one of the major causes. Okay, so in the same way as cow farts are, right? But people are still going to farm cows and eat cows and those sort of things, right? So if laughing is the equivalent of cow farts.
Yeah, you release methane through your throat when you laugh. It's called throat farting.
I would think that there's got to be a safe and appropriate level of throat farting. Like, are we going on like worldwide restrictions? Like, because yes, I can make people laugh, but no one can make you laugh like your, best friends late at night, hanging shit on some, hilarious moment that you all shared together. No one's ever going to make you laugh like that. You're never going to watch like a stand-up performance that makes you laugh in the way that your close friends can laugh. So are we cracking down on that, or are we only cracking down on professional laugh makers and destroying an industry?
Well, I think what you've got to work out is it concentrated, like if you have a stadium, just say you've got like Chris Rock or someone who's playing to a stadium full of people, like what is how much of the what would you call it, laugh O2 is getting into the atmosphere? Like you need to know, because if it's just like small amounts are fine, like your carbon footprint is small, your laughter footprint is small. Like I think this podcast would be okay. I don't think we're making any giant footprints.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Yes, many times on this podcast we are definitely carbon neutral. In fact, if anything, we go too far the other way. I would think maybe you would pay some offset program like you do when you fly, for example, right? So when you fly, you've got a little thing that you can pay to like offset the carbon emissions from your flying. It'd be the same. You kind of include it on the ticket price, I suppose, and say to people, like we're offsetting this show. There's an extra $1.12 or whatever, so that I guess, I mean, it'd be a nice way to justify people not laughing. Maybe you just think they were more concerned about the. I wonder.
I started playing to those lefty university crowds.
Yeah, nodders. Yeah, a whole bunch of nodders. I agree. That is the easiest comedy to write. That'd actually be good. That'd take a whole load, because I'm good at writing things people will agree with. It's then making them funny. This is the tricky part. If I could just go back to having an audience of nodders, and it would be pleasing to us all for the environment, we'd be all so self-righteous. We'd be like, look at us nodding and saving the world. I agree. We are great.
Let's read one last letter before we go. This is from Theo. Hey, fellas. Just wondering whether, as a long-time Smallville fan, Will was aware that Alison Mack was arrested in April and has been accused of being a senior leader in a crazy sex cult multi-level marketing scheme. Just thought he should know. Might add a creepy metatextual awareness next time he rewatches the series. Check out the link below for more information. Love the show, guys. Keep up good work.
Yes, I did know that. I wouldn't call myself a long-time Smallville fan. I'm much more like a long-time Smallville observer.
Yeah, you endured Smallville rather than like.
I got through it. I watched it all. And yes, I have committed to following up any information that is related to the cast of Smallville. So yes, I've been right across this story. I've read every single thing about it. And she was probably my favorite and the most sympathetic character in the entire series too. So the fact that she's the one who's like the crazy sex trafficker is.
Bring me up to speed. Give me the cliff notes.
Blah, 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 sex cult, blah, blah, blah. She got recruited, blah, blah, blah. She recruited other people in dodgy situations.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Great story.
I mean, you know what it is? It's one of those things where you read the headline and you go Smallville star sex cult, where you go, oh, this will be a great story. And then you read it and you're sad. That's what it is.
Oh. Okay. Well, on the sad note, let's sign off. If you want to support the show, the best way to do that is to go to patreon.com/TOFOP. So Patreon is like a crowdfunded site. It keeps keeps our show going by donations. So we really rely on that at the moment. We do have sponsors, as you hear at the start of the show, but this is our core financing. This is what enables us to do the show from week to week. So if you want to support us and hear more of us, please give what you can at Patreon. We are on Facebook and Twitter. What else? You got shows?
So my new show, Will Informed, March 8 in Hobart, and then the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. I will say thank you to everyone who's bought tickets because it's my fastest selling show ever at the festival so far.
Right.
So I hope that keeps going. That'd be cool. And at some stage this year, we are going to be doing some live shows. We haven't done live shows for a long time now, but we're looking at a few different little plans for maybe some small pop-up things that will be off the grid a bit and maybe some sort of a little bit more mainstream things. Nothing sort of big like we've been doing during the comedy festival, but maybe some smaller, cooler, more interesting things to do. So watch this space. I've had a few people ask if we're going to do live shows during the festival. Not during the festival. Well, I mean, even who knows? There may even be something small,
but not
related to
really
the
part of
festival. No.
Yeah,
and not a big show in
more,
the way.
We're sort of going for like a TOFOP unplugged kind of vibe.
Yeah, exactly. Literally, because most of the time the microphones are unplugged.
All right, that's it. I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Will Anderson.
This podcast is part of the Planet Broadcasting Network.
Visit planetbroadcasting.com for more podcasts from our great mates. I mean, if you want. It's up to you.